Hello gamers, Powered Heal here, and today we are crafting a staff. So I made this build for Ice Nova with the dual Foulborn Void batteries, and I kind of think that it would actually be better as a staff. So I'm going to be doing a different version that involves a staff, so I need a staff. So we're crafting a staff. I figured I would show you guys how to craft one, because these are kind of all the same, I would say. By and large, I'll talk about some differences between some types of staffs, but you know, if we're trying to craft a cold staff, fire staff, lightning staff, it's basically all the same process, right? So first thing you're going to look for is a fracture of the +2/3 level of cold, well, whatever element spell skill gems, in this case cold. These are really cheap as a cold build. So if you're a cold build, you're in luck. If you're trying to do something like let's say, lightning, it's a bit more expensive. I haven't really checked out the fire ones yet, so it's something I might do after this. Just grab a couple in case I want to make a fire build down the road. But you get a +3, and then the eye level, in my opinion, it doesn't really matter that much as long as it's 76 or higher. The main thing you're losing for it not being 84 is 2 potential ranks of spell damage or elemental damage of a certain type. So how the prefix damage roll goes is you can get spell damage, which is the most common, most generic type, right? And that has tiers all the way up to eye level 84. So there's 2 tiers above the staff we have now. And then there's the individual damage rolls like fire, cold, lightning, all that stuff. Those go up to the same values, right? So it can go up to eye level 84 and has the same type of value. So it'll have the same actual numerical value as spell damage, but just for a certain type. Now, why are we using a staff that's not super high eye level? Well, it doesn't really matter in most cases because honestly, it's very rare that you're going to get this fracture on an eye 84 base. And if you do, you're going to probably pay a lot for it. So if you're looking for that, then you probably already know how to craft the staff. This is for players who are really new, don't want to use a ton of currency on how to craft the staff. So what I would recommend is just look for one that is above eye level 76. And at that point, because most people anyways are not getting an eye level 84 +3 fracture, most people are just using like an eye 83 or something like that from like reds that you would get, which means you're only missing out on like 1 spell damage tier, which isn't really the end of the world, right? It's kind of unlikely that it's going to roll anyway. Those are some of the harder ones to get. So, yeah. And what we're just going to do here is we're just going to spam these essences. Now, we're using Essence of Misery. The reason why we use a suffix essence here, it doesn't have to be Misery, but we chose Misery, is because when you do a prefix, you're blocking another prefix effectively, right? So what we want this to roll is +2 to all skill gems as well. That'll make this insane. Now, that's really rare, right? But it does roll on a prefix. So if we do spell damage here, while that's ultimately fine for most purposes, what that's going to really do is it's going to block one of the potential slots to get the +2 to all spell skill gems. So that's why we're using prefix essence or suffix essences. Really, it kind of depends on the price. The thing is, the cast speed essence is quite good. Here's the problem with using something like crit multi, right? Actually, I don't even know if there is a crit multi essence for weapon, but we can check. I think it'd be like the other one, crit multiplier. Yeah, it's not for weapon. Okay, so on weapon it goes to critical strike. Yeah. Personally, I just find myself not needing like crit as much on most builds, and in most builds, like 40-some% spell damage is way better than 100% crit, and 40-some% cast speed is way better than 100% crit, and it's way better than like even 100-some% spell damage. So whatever the spell damage equivalent essence is, which would be like 1 higher than this one, is it? Do I have it? I don't have any here, but it's like in the hundreds, but it trust me, the cast speed is like way better. So yeah, that's why we use these. If you're really on a budget and you can't afford, just drop down the essence tier. So this is the best one, Deafening. You can go to Shrieking, you can go to Screaming, If you really need to, you can go to spell damage and just, even though it is taking up an extra slot, if you really can't afford using the miseries, you can essentially do the same thing with the spell damage essence, right? So you can even use the crit one if you want, if it's a lot cheaper. But we're just going to start by rolling these. And we're just looking for something. Keep in mind, it doesn't have to be something that is perfect, right? We're just looking for good rolls. Because the thing with these is you can annul, right? So because the +3 is the main thing we want on the staff and it's already locked in, you can kind of spam annuls on these and, get some pretty decent items. You basically just need decent mods to show up, and then you can annul the other things off. Like this has hybrid and obviously the cast speed. The problem with hybrid is that you don't have, unless you get like a really top tier hybrid roll, which this is a pretty good one, honestly. But this is one of the only ones I'd use, because typically how it goes is you want the +3, and then you're going to craft spell damage and the added flat damage. But if you had like a really good hybrid, you could just craft spell damage, right? In this particular case, we don't have enough other good mods, so we're just going to keep rerolling. Fire damage, that's a suffix, right? Yeah, not good. Okay, this is pretty bleh. This is, yeah, just not very good. Okay, he really wants to roll fire. He loves fire right now. Staff was born to be a fire staff. It's fated to be a cold staff, but born to be a fire staff. Alright. It's a really low spell damage. Some things you can do on these, like... This is an interesting example of something where if you were very low on currency, you might take this, right? But what I was going to say is the flat roll, depending on what you're trying to do, might not matter that much. For example, if you're doing a freeze build, actually it's kind of like the perfect example of this. Let's say that you pretty much already freeze most of the stuff you encounter, right? So you don't really need the cold damage on this staff in particular, and what you could kind of do is, even if you hit like a very high lightning roll, you could just use that instead. So, that could be fine. In this particular situation, I think that lightning roll is really bad. So what I might try and do, like let's say you want to use this as your base. Let's give you an example. You would try and annul that. And I'm just going to annul it anyways, even though I'm probably not going to use this regardless. And we're going to try and hit the lightning to spell damage off. If it hits one of the other things, it's basically bricked and we just roll again. Okay, so we did hit it off. And now you basically just have to decide, like, do we want to keep these mods, or, is it better to have something else? Because what I would do with this is I would bring this to the crafting bench. I would can have multiple crafted mods, and then I would craft the spell damage and the flat on it, right? So we'd have +3 spell damage and flat for the prefixes, and we'd have cast speed and increased spell damage for the suffixes, and then we'd have one suffix taken up by can have multiple crafted mods on it. In this particular case, I think this is probably okay to use. What I would probably do in this case is I would PoB it. Typically, I like to use like a tier 1 crit multi on the staff, but I mean this crit percent is pretty decent, especially if I were to divine this and hit anything even like reasonably decent. It's pretty good, right? So I think right now I'm just going to keep this. And unfortunately, I don't think I have the craft, because I think you need to do, multiple. Yeah, I don't have the craft right now, because you need to do the div card map. I forget what it's called to grab it. The one with all the div cards. I don't know if it's here somewhere. Can just find it for you guys. That way you don't have to look it up. Maybe we can. Maybe we can't, actually. Don't remember where it is on the map. Not Twilight Temple. It's not this. It's not the pillars. It shouldn't be that hard to find. It should technically be unlocked. I'm failing to remember exactly what it's called, but you guys know the one I'm talking about. It's the one that has all the diff cards. I just can't remember. Can't remember, but you guys will. You'll be able to just look up just search div card unique map, and it'll come up. So yeah, that's basically how you craft the staff, though. And you just keep going until you hit what you want, right? You can be as picky as you want. Basically, like when you're low on currency, you're gonna want to take like kind of the first good roll you even reasonably hit, and then once you get more currency, obviously you get another staff typically, and you roll on that one while you have your main staff, and you can be a bit more picky. I don't recommend like re-rolling over your current staff unless you're already like really wealthy and you're just full on committed to making the item, right? Because obviously that can create a disaster. You have a really good staff or a pretty good staff. You want to upgrade it, but you don't have a ton of currency, so you use the same base, and you're just re-rolling over it, and then you brick it. That's obviously not good. So there's a couple notes to keep in mind there. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments, and I will talk to you next time. See ya.